interesting man in the world. He may not be that, but he's the most interesting pitcher in baseball.
But what makes him the most interesting man in baseball? Well, there's a lot of sides of R.A. Dickey. There's the knuckleballer.
Have the capacity to kind of break down mechanics and see beyond the surface of what things are. And I really view my relationship with the knuckleball as exactly that, a relationship. It's a living thing for me. It's very organic. It's not a pitch I throw and I want it to spin this way. I mean, I fight against it, and it reminds me of things, and it's a metaphor for other things, and it's so much more than just a pitch to me, which makes for a very rich life for me.
I wanna dance in the lights. I wanna rock your body.
For me, as a knuckleballer, was the visual image of my mechanic going through a door frame. And so I kind of imagined myself staying compact, as you said. And the way that I do that is I imagine myself not a door frame like this, but one half the size, like an ordinary door frame. And if I come unglued too early, too late, then my appendages will smack the frame of the door, you know. And if I stay tight in baseball, to protect ourselves, we wear a cup, right? And so one of the visuals for me in throwing a knuckleball was finishing the pitch down the center of my body and almost hitting myself in the cup. You know, so that was, and I could never do that because almost mechanically it's impossible not to get offline a little bit, but the image, the visual, really helped me stay online to my target.
The nerd.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. Huge Star Wars fan.
That's right. Somebody was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so that might be one thing that I would have added. I'm a Star Wars, I wouldn't say aficionado, but I'm certainly a nerd.
Destroy you.
September of '05, the very last month of the season, I got called back up and had a meeting with Charlie Huff. Charlie Huff is a knuckleballer who is very, very good. I refer to a certain number of knuckleballers as the Jedi Council of knuckleballers. The guys, they've been through it and pitched a number of innings and had a lot of success. And those guys for me are Phil Negro, Charlie Huff, and Tim Wakefield. And I have all of them on my speed dial.
The writer.
And I have this fetish where I can't start a book and put it down. I have to finish it.
I read a lot of baseball books, some for review, some for pleasure, but only a few of them blow me away. If you're a fan of the Mets, R.A. Dickey, baseball, or just really good books, I highly recommend you go read Wherever I Wind Up if you haven't already.
A little bit of insight into what might connect a reader to your subject, which is probably important if you want to write a good story. Having written a book, that is what I tried to do. I try to use my own life experience to be able to connect with the reader in a way that hopefully would move them to action. Now, you may write from that perspective or you may not. That was what my memoir was. That was a goal, was to create a forum where it was, that would create, it would create a forum for people to talk about things that were difficult. And in my book, I deal with being sexually abused and a tough childhood and, trouble in my marriage and a tough career path, and all kinds of different things. But in an effort to show the reader and communicate to the reader that one of the common denominators, I think, in all humanity is that we undergo some adversity of some kind.
The Survivor.
Skip Bertman was my coach, and one of the things that he always tried to instill in us, we were in preparation for the '96 Olympic Games in Atlanta. And we were, it was slated as Cuba versus the USA. I mean, those are the two baseball powerhouses in the world, really, at the time. Japan's come on since then. Of course, the Latin American teams are good. As far as the Olympic Games, it was really us versus Cuba. And one of the things that he tried to do to allay or to mollify some of our angst about facing them was to kind of daily we would meet and we would talk about some things, mental things. And one of the things he shared with us was about pressure. And he said the only pressure you ever feel is the pressure that you put on yourself.
Six years ago, Dickey was about as far from the bright lights of the All-Star game as an active big leaguer can be. Profoundly depressed, he lay alone in the dark in an empty house and took inventory of his tortured past, his crumbling marriage, and his career spent mostly scuffling in baseball's minor leagues. "I was contemplating suicide," he told CNN this week in his soft Tennessee drawl. "I'd really wrecked my marriage. I'd torn my family apart. I'd reached a dead end in my career. The identity I had as a baseball player was being ripped away. I'd come to the end of myself." In his candid new autobiography, Wherever I Wind Up, My Quest for Truth, Authenticity, and the Perfect Knuckleball, Dickey reveals he was sexually abused as a boy, first by a babysitter and later by a neighborhood teen. The shame of it crippled his self-esteem and his intimacy with his wife. Not until he unburdened himself for the first time in counseling after the 2006 season did he begin to cleanse his old wounds and find some peace. Not coincidentally, he also became a better pitcher.
We all have to kind of hold that in a place. Now, how you hold that well, that's what I tried to communicate. How I went from holding it in a very toxic way to holding it in a way where I felt it was transforming.
But this is how we'll really remember him.